You had 8 things on the checklist.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
At some point, adding complexity to the system does not help you make a better decision at the top. So you could have a 10,000 point checklist of what makes a good helper. It's a question of the time that you're spending on things. Is it yielding the results that you want? Especially in the beginning, if you over-process things, pre-processes for too many things, especially outside of you, you're like processing your time is valuable because you can easily get distracted by all sorts of random stuff and, you're screwed. So like where you put things in your calendar really matters. And I like processes in business too. There also comes a point where there's too many processes and it's counterproductive. So is it actually required?
Alex is an entrepreneur that I've been mentoring for almost a decade. He runs Toronto Dance Salsa, which is the largest salsa dancing school in Canada, maybe North America. And he has ambitions to take his one location in Toronto and take it around the world. We do mentoring sessions once a week, and this week we decided to record it so that you could join in on the session with us. If you like it and you want to see more, let me know in the comments below.
All right, so we're doing this.
I don't even know what we're doing. This might become something. That might be B-roll. It might be a whole pile of nothing. So don't get too excited.
I would love to finish that conversation about the helpers, the scoring, and just as a catch-up, this all started with I spoke to Ivy, and I was struggling to help her figure out how to find the right helpers for our school, basically, right? Like to coach her on that. So I wanted basically a simple structure. I'm like, if we do this, then we can find more suitable volunteers. So I started with that. So I then created a rating system. So we just started with what makes a good helper. So we did this. And I said, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, let's rate this person on this thing we look for and this thing, da-da-da-da. And it became this whole system. What it really stems from is obviously in part all the mistakes I've made and, running a dance school at the beginning and having everybody around who wasn't on board for the new culture I was creating. Like, obviously, there's lots of pain behind it. I'm getting emotional talking about it, but part of it is definitely I'm the type of guy, if I have simple guidelines and rules, it just helps me feel like I can more consistently hit the mark.
Don't treat this like a show. Just talk to me. Jesus.
Okay, so, Evan! All right.
Actual mentoring, not fake, anyway, okay.
Let's go.
You know what
Right.
I mean. Okay, so just...
Yeah, I do know what you mean. I'm frustrated because my gut isn't always correct, and it depends heavily on whether I'm feeling lonely or not, or insecure. And quite often, I'll tend to pick people who are sometimes the underdogs, who I can help, but in terms of the amount of help they'll need to be successful in the role we need, it doesn't always proportionally kind of pay off. And so this all kind of comes from, if I have a playbook that I can give someone, how many woohoos do we have in a class, give or take? How many times we play a song, the perfect class experience. If I can give that playbook on how we judge a successful helper versus not and raise a standard, I just believe that we're gonna have not only better helpers, but more consistently hit high-performing helpers, which will lead to high-performing instructors. And when you gave me feedback, you basically said, well, Alex, you just don't have enough people right now. You have only 13 people, so it's like, first go get 60, and then you can be more picky. It's my insecurity, man, because if I onboard someone, if I pull someone in, I go all in on them. Having to go in on someone and then be later on, be like, nah, it kind of doesn't work out. I don't want to keep going through that. And I guess part of it is just, I don't want other people not to feel like they don't belong. It sucks. And on the other part, I want something that I hire someone and train them within a week. They can onboard and find the right helpers quicker. If I train an instructor within 3 days, they can build quickly 6 volunteers. They know exactly what the parameters are, And so our last conversation, you said to me, Alex, you're complicating the system. You don't have enough people.
Is it?
And so it's this give and take. Holy cow, it's this give and take.
Is that a fire alarm?
That's a fire alarm. You see? Things are on fire. Oh, it stopped. Oh, okay. And so I was going to go in the closet. Back in the closet, Alex. And so I'm frustrated with Alex not being flexible and having rules and how hard that can be on people as a leader, versus I want the McDonald's formula of you do these things, this is the secret sauce, and you'll have great staff, you have a great experience, you know. I just kind of vomited all over you right there just now earlier, but
So you mean that the challenge is you're thinking at scale when the problem right now is not scale. So you're trying to develop this giant process, which to open up a new location and another new location, cool, that could be valuable, but it's so many steps for somebody to get going now. Like, how are you figuring out, your goal right now is having 2 new people per week, right?
yeah.
Great. So how are you picking those people? And ultimately is a gut check, and you're going to make some wrong decisions, and you're going to make better ones with time. Ultimately, it's really, do they add to the student experience? Is this helper, this person you're bringing on, are they going to make the customers happier, the students happier?
My frustration with what you're saying is, I know that there's a massive layer of insecurity in me, and not insecurity of whether I pick the right people, but my need to help people has quite often had me pick people who are fixer-uppers, and they're okay with other people, but like it's like a personal project.
And what lens are you putting it through?
They need my help.
Right. And what lens did I tell you to put it through?
They will be helpful to students.
Yeah. Will it contribute to the student experience? So you don't need a 8-point checklist. It's, do they contribute to the student experience? And once they're in, at the end of every semester, you do a survey, and one of the feedback is, how are the helpers? And if that person's name is not showing up, then this person is not contributing to the student experience. So it's not the only metric, but it's a pretty good metric. But yeah, if you're looking at people through the lens of, can I help this person? Would it be fun for me to help this person? Then that's not what you're looking for. That doesn't help the business. I might help Alex's soul to know he can help somebody. So it's just one metric. Will they contribute to the student experience? Yes or no? And I think the danger when we first talked about it, you were talking about because of Ivy. You wanted to give this to your instructor so that she had a model. Not as much about, do you have a model that you can use? The challenge is adding too many layers and not trusting her judgment then decreases her self-confidence in what she can do. So say, you pick helpers based off of, do you think they can contribute to the student experience? And I trust your judgment. And you're going to make some mistakes. It's okay. Nobody gets it. I haven't gotten it perfect either. The people you think will contribute to the student experience. Everything here is focused on the class experience. Will they help? Yes or no? If you're helping them because you think you can help them because they're a broken bird, you're using a different filter. So you're right to have a filter. Great, but you don't need an 8-point filter. It's a 1-point filter. Will they contribute to the class experience? The simpler something is, the easier it is to remember and to execute. The simpler it is, the easier it is to execute. So if I said, you're looking at, why you pick a helper, great. Why did you pick this person? Are they still good for us or not? If you had to, you're gonna have to go to your checklist instead of being able to remember. But you could just say, do they add to the student experience? Like, yes. Okay, good, keep them.
So my question is, how do I raise the bar? So let's say we don't have, C+ instructors, but A+ instructors. It's hard to go from C+ to A+, but it's easier to go from A to A+. It's like...
You talking about instructors, you're talking about helpers?
This whole system came up, not so much even from helpers, it's for helpers in training. It's that probation period, right? It's like, we're testing them out for seven weeks, whatever it is, right? They're seeing what it's like. And at the end, we need a quick assessment of, this helper should become a helper versus they're helpers and, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What was my question?
I don't know. I'm waiting for it. You're at instructors and you went all the way down to helpers and training. Like, okay, I thought there was a link to the story, but.
There is.
There it is.
How do I make sure that student experience can be, they're okay at the student experience, they're great at the student experience, they're amazing at the student experience. Is it right now just go get sexy, go get sexy, oh my gosh.
Whoa.
No.
What?
Yeah. Go get
Sexy?
60 It's go get 60. Go get 60 volunteers, even if they're like okay at it, at the student experience, at the serving mentality. It's hire fast, fire fast versus hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah,
Make
or
sense?
you is hire slow, fire slow.
Hire never something. Fire never
Exactly.
sometimes.
They hire never, fire never. Perfect.
That model hasn't been working.
No, exactly. So you need more people. I mean, you need more people. You have a probation period. What's like again, you could go super detailed on everything. You could say class by class what this person has to do.
To them.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. You
instructions.
can make a model for them, or you can make a checklist for yourself of class by class. What does this
Oh my
person
God,
have to do?
That's so amazing. I'm so excited about it.
Even just paying attention to that checklist versus what you should be focused on in the class. Like you can only put your attention on one thing at a time, and you focus on this, you're not focused on that. So how well a helper is doing in class week by week is not the best use of your time.
I agree. Week by week, yes.
And there'll be many things that they contribute that aren't on your official checklist. So it's not even student experience, it's class experience, right? So what's a class experience? So for example, you might have somebody who is really shy and doesn't have a ton of energy, but is still like if you're not a kind person, you're not going to make it in anyway. You know, if you're rude to people, you're mean, you're not going to make it in anyway. So we're already talking about degrees. But if you're just really shy and you don't voice your opinion on giving people feedback and you don't tell them what to do to improve, but you're very detail oriented and you're on the attendance and you're checking everybody off and you get all that stuff done and you recognize little mistakes in class, like somebody doesn't have a partner, so they jump in. They're seeing the little things that you aren't seeing because they're very detail oriented, but they're not the most energetic, spastic, happy person. Are they contributing to the class experience? Like, yeah, so keep them. But you're talking about two different things. Like you're bringing on people through a framework of, can I help them? So you're to say that, okay, I need a new framework, which is right. You should have a better. That's not a good framework to build a business. If you're bringing employees on, it shouldn't be, can I help this person grow as the only, they have to be able to contribute to your business. But you're jumping to a now complex framework. And you're thinking, how do I scale to be able to have all these locations and all these instructors with this framework? Like by the time you get there as a company, the framework's going to change. And way more important framework's going to be put in place. So you don't have to worry about where you're at in 3 years or how many locations you have. You need to get the 60 people from the 14 or whatever you're at right now. And you need a framework, but a simple one, because the framework you've been using has been, can I be a life coach for this person, as opposed to, are they a good fit for my business? Do they contribute to the class experience? Yes or no? Yes? Cool. Borderline? Okay, so then it's a maybe. And you're testing them out for a semester anyway.
So like when I'm training, well, part of this whole conversation also is trust your people to make the mistakes and coach them along. So,
And make judgment calls.
that override their judgment.
No. Trust your people.
Sorry.
You said trust the people to make mistakes. You're already just assuming they're going to make just all mistakes. And trusting their judgment call. You said trust your people to make mistakes.
Yes.
Okay, but
they're going to make mistakes. I make a ton of mistakes.
Yeah, of course. You still do. But it's trust your people to make a judgment call. And inside the judgment call, most of it will be right. Like I just default to thinking most of it will be right. If you tell Ivy's been with you. She's been part of TDS for how long?
About a year and a half.
Overall, like from being a student and everything?
About a year and 8 months. 8 months, something like that. Yeah. It's almost 2 years.
She's hung around you. You've trained her multiple times per week. Like you've worked together. She knows you. She knows the system. Great. So would she make the exact same choices as you? No, but she's not going to go and bring on somebody who's a F helper. Unless she's using a complete wrong framework like, I don't know, is this guy cute? Okay, great. He's a helper, right? That's not a good framework. Right? So you're giving her a framework of, will this person contribute to the class experience? And then you're saying, I trust your judgment. You can either go checklist, like everything, 100% checklist, which then you have to account for everything. And it takes a ton of time to create that checklist and account for everything. And by the way, you still haven't figured it all out yourself anyway, right? Like you're still a work in progress. You haven't gone and got your 60 or 14. So you're making a checklist on the fly versus what will allow you to go faster. Say, I trust your judgment. And then let her bring on people, which will probably be mostly good fits. And there might be a couple bad apples or wrong choices, but then you work your way through. Like you're not ready to production line this thing yet. And at some point you have to think, where does it stop being a production line?
It's easier. But there's a point where it loses its heart, I guess, right?
Well, exactly. I mean, you're not in the canned soup business. Yeah.
I mean, how do you have 100 locations if you don't have a canned soup?
No.
I'm touching the wrong thing.
The strength of PDS is the heart. So it can't turn, like, if it was just all able to be checklisted and automated, great, then just turn it over to AI and robots can come in and teach everything. And it'd be the perfect checklist every single time.
How do you systemize the heart?
You allow people to make judgment calls.
Doesn't that take longer, though?
No, it's faster.
Look how long it took me. How's that faster?
Because you are giving the person in the situation the ability to act instead of be like, imagine something happens, lights go out in TDS. Where's the checklist for this? Okay, hold on. Let me wait, guys. Let me go and look at my binder and try to find where the checklist for this specific thing is. That's slowing it down versus I'm going to make the best call I have and Alex has my back. What needs to be systemized? Well, the process of signing up needs to be systemized, right? It should be a smooth process to sign up for a class. What is taught in every class should be systemized. If somebody comes through level 1 and then they do level 1 with you versus level 1 with Ivy, they should learn the same thing, because if they go to level 2 with you coming from Ivy, that's a terrible, like it's through the class experience. That's not going to be a great class experience.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
Now it's a bad experience.
It's inconsistent.
So it can't just be only teach whatever you want today. Whatever. You feel like teaching a triple turn in level 1? Yeah, go for it. Why not? Right? That would lead to a bad overall experience. But you can't then checklist every little thing in the class, because now you're turning people into robots. And then it slows things down. Because they're not going to remember everything. It's too much to remember. The point of making it simple is that I can remember it. The point of looking at a helper, like think about how many things an instructor has to deal with. And now you're adding this new thing in of, you also have to recruit helpers to join your class. So on top of being prepared and knowing my story and doing the huddle at the end and teaching the moves and knowing the man and the women's part and how to lead and follow and prepping my songs and all this stuff, I also have to add this other thing on of recruiting helpers to join my class. So now if you give me 5 things or 8 things that I have to look at to recruit a helper in, you're filling my brain with too many things. And so if I'm going to now focus on this, I'm going to drop this other stuff.
I mean, well, the answer to that isn't necessarily you do it in class. It could be post-class. You look at your attendance list, right? You have a structure for that. And I get your point.
It's opportunity cost. So they only have so much time to spend on TDS stuff. And now you're saying spend time on this and not prepping for your next class, reviewing the next moves, spending time with your assistant. The major things need to have a process. And that's fine. It's not just go complete gray and whatever you want.
But isn't recruitment the major thing? This is my question. How do I get those A+ instructors? Well, for example, I wasn't an A+ instructor.
Yeah. No, you wouldn't have made it, for sure. I didn't even want you to join at all because you weren't taking feedback. You would have failed all of the things. Look at your list. You would have failed a bunch of things. I mean, I would have done, on mine, it would be like, can they, if they're going to grow, can they take feedback? That was the biggest thing why I said, don't bring Alex in, because he took 0 feedback. You didn't want to listen to anything. In level 6,
Well, that was me as a student, I think, right? Or was it a helper as well? No, I was a helper. I think I've helped in your classes.
Yeah, you were a helper, and you just didn't want any. And I would try to give you feedback when you were with a student.
And you would count. I still remember that 1.
But I would
5.
do it in a way that they wouldn't see the person you're with, because I don't want to make the helper look bad. And with their dance partner, it was a student where you're supposed to know what you're doing, and you're counting off time. Cool, whatever. You go do whatever you want to do. Because Alex should not be an instructor. So you don't need your instructors to pick the next instructors yet. You're not even close. You don't even have helpers in training yet. You're thinking too many steps ahead. People going from student to helper in training to helper to then assistant to then instructor, right? That's the trajectory of somebody. You don't have enough helpers in training at the very stop, and you're worried about getting A+ instructors. Like where you're at now, being able to help an instructor, yeah, that could be a good use of time. Like, do they have enough raw ingredients for you to be able to help them grow as a human, but also inside of being, because you love coaching. So it's great. It's like being able to coach and make the lives of an instructor better. But they have to have the raw ingredients to be a good instructor as well. That's worth a lot of time. But doing that for every single helper in training doesn't make sense. So all you have to do is ask, did they contribute to the class experience? Like you look at your checklist, you had 8 things on the checklist or whatever it was?
4 or 5, I think. 5 max.
Definitely more than 4. Okay, so let's...
No.
5. No, not more than 4? Definitely more than 4. He's going to load up right now. There's definitely more.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, perfect.
4 or 5? 5. All right.
Okay, so pick one.
Like one that I think is valuable?
Well, I hope they're all valuable if they're on the list.
I mean, there's 3 that I think are incredible. 2.
Whatever.
Okay, I'll narrow it down. 2. Pick one.
Yeah, just.
Serving mentality.
Okay, perfect.
That's, I think, the most important one.
Okay. So you're saying now give a check or give a letter grade for serving mentality. Perfect. Well, what's that? How do I know? You can have a checklist for serving mentality.
Right. Okay. I can have 5 things for serving mentality.
Yeah, and then under those 5 things could be 5 more things. So how big is this checklist going to go? Serving mentality could be, do they go and say hi to people on their own in class? If they see somebody on a bench, do they go and say hi? Serving mentality. Perfect. So that's one of the 5 things for serving mentality. But under that could be, do they do it in every class, right? So now that 1 has become 9 things because it's a 9-week class. Like at some point, adding complexity to the system does not help you make a better decision at the top. So you could have a 10,000 point checklist of what makes a good helper. I don't think it's going to be that much more valuable in terms of picking than just having 1, which is, do they contribute to the class experience? And it's a heck of a lot faster. So it's a question of the time that you're spending on things, is it yielding the results that you want? Especially in the beginning, if you over-process things, create processes for too many things, especially outside of you, you're like processing your time is valuable because you can easily get distracted by all sorts of random stuff and, you're screwed. So like where you put things in your calendar really matters. And I like processes in business too, but there also comes a point where there's too many processes and it's counterproductive. So is it actually required? The whole thing on a newsletter that I sent you, you wrote this giant story about your life in the newsletter. How long do you think that took you to write? It was a long time.
3 hours.
3 hours. Okay. So then it becomes a question. I could tell it took you a long time to do that. And you probably don't spend that much on every newsletter that you send out.
No.
Right? But it begs the question of like, was that worth it? If it was just in a creative thing, fun, scratch the itch, cool. But is it worth spending 3 hours on a newsletter? And maybe it's yes. Like maybe it's like, how many sales we got from that? Or how many comments I got back from that? Or how many students were touched by that message? Then cool, keep doing it. But anything that's taking up giant chunks of time, it's a constant evaluation of, is this thing still helping me or not? Is it helping me at all? Or maybe it used to be helping me and now it's not worth my time as much. And so I need to move on. So I just saw how much time, I didn't know it was 3 hours, but I knew it wasn't like 5 minutes. It was a big chunk of time. That is opportunity cost. Spending 3 hours on that means that could have been 3 hours reaching out to find helpers. Looking at your schedule, there's probably some wasted time in there anyway. And so anything on the business is probably more effective than other activities, but it's still something to think about. Is this activity helping me achieve my goals inside the business or just as a human? And if it is, awesome. And if it's not, then it's worth evaluating. In my Brandlytics session today, we had Brandlytics training this morning, which is just like YouTube training. One of the people is in Brandlytics and Movement Makers. And she asked, hey, what's happening with the challenges? Like you do these monthly challenges and I don't know if we should be putting this on our channels or not. And I said, well, there is no challenge for this month. We're halfway through the month right now is this time, and there hasn't been a challenge announced. And it was a test to see, does anybody notice? So the challenge was, you guys, they make content together, right? Well, you've been there, right? You make content together with 3 people, and then we do a live at the end, right? So she said, well, what's the point of it? And I said, well, initially it was because Movie Makers, when we started, we had a lot of very beginner people who were just at the early stages of making content. And they would come to the trainings and they would ask questions. They would consume all the content, but they weren't making videos. And they'd be in for 6 months and they still don't have a single video up on the channel. It's like, just put anything up, because they're concerned about all the lighting and camera and script and having a pimple and whatever else, like all the beginner stuff. So I started the challenge as a way to just say, just get started and make content. If you and Alex are going to hop on a call and you're going to talk about perseverance, great. Like it's great for both of you if none of you are making content. Is it ultimately the best content for either of you? No. Like, does put in a video about perseverance help Alex sell more dance classes? Probably not, right? If you're already making content, it's not necessarily the best thing. But if you're at the beginning stage, then you got to put it out there. So Movie Makers, though, has shifted, has changed, become a lot more expensive, and we've had the new people coming in are already on their path of making content. So the value of having the challenge is not there anymore. And so this month was a test to say, let's just not talk about it and see if anybody notices. One person noticed. This is not valuable. We should stop doing this. Because it's energy and effort every month. So it doesn't mean stop caring about your clients. It means, okay, so we're spending energy here. Let's stop doing that and let's find something else that is now more valuable. It used to be very valuable. It's not anymore. So let's shift our attention to focus on something that can help them more. And it's for your time. And then as you scale, it's team's time. So is Ivy's best time spent doing this checklist for all of her helpers, right? Maybe. Yeah, maybe that's like the best thing that she could be doing. But I think if you just had one metric instead of 5, she'll make the same decision. And so is it worth spending 3 hours on a newsletter? Maybe. My response wasn't, stop doing this. This is a waste of time. Maybe it is worth it. But that's the judgment call to make. Like, are we getting results from a newsletter, either qualitatively or quantitatively? Qualitative, like people coming up and telling you how much it means to them. Quantitative is leading to sales and people signing up for the class. And if it's not doing any of those, then it's probably not worth 3 hours a week. Not that you're doing 3 hours every week on this, but when you have these exception cases, it helps shine a light on the situation to say, is this even worth doing? It's usually when it's like the straw that broke the camel's back. It's like something happens and then it makes you look at the whole thing. So the fact you spent 3 hours on a newsletter, was it our best newsletter ever? Did you get a ton of feedback on it? Did we get a bunch of sales from it? Was it the exact same as every other newsletter? Is it even worth doing a newsletter, period? If you just sent out the class schedule, would that be enough? I don't know. And this happens to me too all the time. There's lots of things that we all do that we think is valuable, or we just get used to doing it because it's part of our habits, that actually don't make a difference at all anymore.
Opportunity cost.
Yeah. And then you can use that time to do something else. We're doing it for our videos. Nicola is on my team who does our video intros, and he's been spending a lot of time editing the first minute of our videos to try to get as high retention possible for the first minute. And he's the past week results was lower than the week before. And what we did was we created a checklist. So we have a checklist of like, you got to hit these things in the first minute. And 2 weeks ago, we had just created the checklist, so he hadn't done it. So he hit like half of them. Last week, he hit 90% of the things on the checklist, and the results went down. Not a lot, but it went down. So, okay, so we're doing a good job on hitting the checklist, but we're picking the wrong things for the checklist if our results are going down. We have to come up with something dramatically different. So going into the next week, he's tasked with coming up with something dramatically different. And I also said for 2 videos, do no intros. Nothing edited. Just go right into it. Because I want a benchmark. Now, hopefully, his videos that he's doing the new ones crush the ones with no intros at all. If they don't, or they're the same, then all the work that he's doing is not helpful. And so we need to rethink it. Either find a different way to do one minute intros, or put him in a completely different position, because we're spending lots of time and energy on something that then isn't yielding results. So it's a constant evaluation. This isn't just something that you do once. Like, it's a constant evaluation of where you're spending your time, and is it yielding the results that you're looking for or not. If it's a hobby, if it's fun, if it's personal, not everything has to have an ROI. But if it's meant to have an ROI, then it has to have an ROI. Right? If the newsletter is meant to drive students, then it needs to drive students. If it's for you to practice being a creative writer, don't do it inside the business. Do it as its own hobby thing. Just making sure the things that are supposed to have an ROI actually have an ROI. And so how much time do you have every day to do stuff inside the business? Great. Is that the best use of your time every day? And for everybody, it's no. For me, it's no. Is this the best use of my time? I have no idea. I already talked to you this week. Why am I talking to you again? Because we're making content. Maybe, right? This might turn into something, or this maybe never gets released. Who knows? It's an experiment. But if we don't release this and don't do anything with it, there's a camera on me here, whatever. If we do something with it, cool. But if we never do anything with it, then I'm not going to talk to you every week and do this. Because I'm already talking to you on Mondays, going over stuff, right? Like, this series will die because it's not generating I'll do something else with this time, because this is supposed to be time to help me grow what I'm doing. It's a constant evaluation. I'm never done. You're never done. Nobody's ever done, right? Jeff Bezos made a quote about, I'm trying to optimize, what did he say? I'm trying to optimize my toothbrush routine. And he's making a joke, but basically saying, like, those 30 seconds, if you can brush your teeth 30 seconds faster and still get the same results, do it 30 seconds faster.
Part of what I think influenced the whole thing, but not complicated system, was I am consuming a lot more Alex Hormozi about optimizing systems, and I see exactly what you talk about. One is people. I need to believe in my people. That's a part of it. The other part is, like, investing in complicating a system that itself is taking more time, takes away from me getting and recruiting more. And trust your gut, Alex. Right now, also don't think in scale.
Yes, you have to believe in your people, and you need to make your people believe in themselves. It's that your belief in them makes them believe in them. When they're not sure how to do it, the fact that you think they can do it makes them think they can do it. Where you're often doing the opposite, and you've gotten better at it, but you've burnt out instructors because you're too harsh and too critical, and, like, they feel like they'll never get it. They'll never hit your standards for what they should be. Meanwhile, you were still figuring out what the heck you were doing. Like, the difference is if I become to you and says, I don't know how to pick helpers, I'm worried. And you're like, yeah, you should be. Like, you don't have a model. You're going to suck at picking help. Not that you would say that, but that's how it's easy.
The energy.
Yeah, your body language, that's what you're thinking. You're thinking, she's going to suck at doing this. And so that's the energy that gets put out, as opposed to saying, okay, she might make some mistakes, but she's got this. When you came in the level 3 class and you were becoming an instructor and you said, Evan, can you go teach the double turn in the front of the class? I said, no, I'm not teaching it. You can do this. I didn't know. You might fall on your face. I don't know. Now, you didn't. But what would it have showed you if I came in and did everything for you, and especially in front of your students, every time you had a little bit of self-doubt?
That I'd never be as good as you.
Yeah. And not even as good as me. Like, you may not be good enough. And then you wouldn't keep going. We're like, no, you're going to do the double turn, and if you fall, and we'll figure it out. I didn't know how it would go. It turned out pretty well. Like, you didn't fall over, you didn't stumble. Could you have taught it better? Sure. I mean, your first classes were a disaster, but you're thrown in there with zero training and prep work, and it was that you were doing it. So imagine if I just destroyed you at every class and said, you suck for all these things. That was the worst class. It was like, I guess if we ever use this for the people watching, I gave Alex the option to go and teach the day of. he's got 15 minutes as we're driving to class to say, you teach or I teach, you pick. And so he was not prepared for it. And so he said yes, so you did it. It was like those first 3 weeks of working with you were the worst classes I've ever seen from anybody in my life. But if I said that, how would that make you feel?
Oh my God,
right?
it would destroy me.
It's like it would have been over. You would have quit.
Yeah.
And it was true, but I knew you could get better, or at least I hoped you could get better. At least I made you believe that you could get better. I mean, it's hard to get worse. No,
you can hide your body language really well.
No. But I wasn't. This is the difference. I wasn't hiding anything. I believed you would get better. It wasn't me being fake. It was equally the worst class I'd ever seen, but I wasn't leaning into the fact of how bad it was. I was leaning into the fact that you're going to get better, and leaning into the fact that I was proud that you stepped up and even did it in the first place. Like somebody who would say yes at the last minute and do it is going to go off and do great things. That's what I was leaning into, and I believe that. That was not a lie. But they were the worst classes that I've ever seen. And whatever, to be expected. So what are you leaning into? You're just not believing in your people. And so like that's even a bigger thing than the checklist, because what we don't want to do is bring in things that make people lose confidence in themselves. So you don't need Alex's checklist. I trust you for this. Now, it doesn't mean, again, that she's just going to go off and make up her own level 3 class and do whatever. But she can do this.
Got a lot more self-work to do.
Well, awesome. So, I mean, we all do. That's the journey.
No, I mean, just the insecurity of just being secure attached. You know, in my mind, I always think I can do it better, and that often breeds what you're talking about, which is people not believing in themselves.
Well, and you can't do everything.
Yeah.
And ultimately, she'll find a path that is better. Like, she can't tell your stories.
Well, listen, she's teaching tonight, and I get to go coach her again tonight coming in. And I'll definitely make sure that when I come in my mind, I believe she can get better. I'm not coming in to watch mistakes. I believe she can get better, and I gotta believe in her, and she'll come to me for feedback, and I'll give her, but you can do this.
Yeah, and believe she can be great.
You did it again.
Yeah, believe she can be great. That's the only thing that anybody who is working with you, they want that validation of progress. And so if they've made progress, amazing, let them know. And if they haven't, and you have to be harsh, then maybe she didn't practice. Maybe she didn't go over the material. Maybe she spent 5 minutes reviewing everything before. It doesn't mean that that's acceptable, right? So you will have to have hard conversations. But it needs to, inside of the hard conversation needs to be the belief that things can be great. Otherwise, why is she even there? Like, when I was talking to Nicola about the first minute retention, it's like, I believe he's great and that we can figure this out. If you think about the morale, like he started off really low on our call because he did everything we asked him to do, the whole checklist, spent tons of time. We cut his workload in half so he can spend twice as much time on the videos that we gave him. He did everything we asked and it had worse results. And so now he's on a call with me, and it's just, the energy at the beginning was terrible from him, right? He just feels defeated, doesn't know what to do. Because we interpret that as we're not good enough. And so it was my job to bring it back up, to say, I think you can do, and I do, I believe he's great. I think he can do great things. He's done some amazing things. I think he can be great. We haven't created great things yet, but I can either pound him for all the mistakes that he made or believe in the greatness. So I think there always has to be some, unless you're just trying to get rid of somebody, even in a tough conversation, there has to be an uplifting to greatness. They should be leaving you feeling, okay, I didn't do my work. I didn't do my job. If they didn't, right? Like I only spent 5 minutes prepping. But if Alex thinks I can be great, I think I can be great. as opposed to just feeling like a piece of crap leaving. And not that she is, and not that everybody is all the time, but
Yeah.
so it's not about hiding your feelings. It's about choosing how to feel. Because I suck at hiding feelings too. Yeah, no, I mean, I suck at acting and faking, and I hate it. But it's choosing what you're going to focus on.
What's my workaround right now? Is it believing that I can get them there before I can believe more that they can get there? Because I know I see what the obstacle is. Right now I'm concerned I might not be able to cross that bridge. Because in my mind, everybody around me, I'm like, eh.
I don't think it can be about you. It's got to be about them. Like, you're going to help them, sure, but that they have the raw ingredients to be great at the thing that you're ultimately asking them to do. Like, if they don't have the raw ingredients to be great at something,
Pick the wrong person.
yeah, it's like, what are they doing there? They need molding, they need support, they need encouragement, they need training, they need mentoring, they need all of the stuff. But if you don't feel they have the raw ingredients and you're a terrible actor, what are we doing?
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you for this. I'm gonna do better with her, and also with my assistants. I'm getting emotional, and because I'm feeling so much embarrassment, about they don't deserve to feel like that. That they're not enough because of my own insecurities.
Yeah. You don't need to beat yourself up on that. Nobody who's hanging around you is feeling like, oh, I feel low about myself because of Alex, and he doesn't make me feel belong. If you ask any of those people, how does Alex make you feel? It's all only going to be a list of positive things. And if you say, no, be honest, they'll say only be positive things. So you don't have to take it off the deep end. And it's great to take responsibility and accountability and all this stuff. It's great. Yes, it's your fault. And like, you don't have to go all the way into the dumpster and that now all these people deserve better and I suck, right? That's the wrong. Don't focus on how much you have sucked at doing this. Focus on all these people, what they could be great at, and pour that into them. Because you're doing it out of love for them to be great, as opposed to guilt of you not doing better. So you sitting there feeling sad that you're not doing a good enough job is the wrong energy to carry into going to meet them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
think about who you're... Huh?
I was going to say, I'd be like, I'm so sorry I failed you. That's the wrong energy.
What are you even talking about?
Yeah.
If you're going to spend time getting emotional, think about how great these people can be, not how you failed them over the past. Because you haven't. You haven't failed them. You've been great. If you ask them, who has been the top 20 people in your life for past year who've helped you, I'm sure you'd be on most people's list. So you're a net positive for all these people. Great. Doesn't mean you're doing your best by any shot. You can still do way better. But how you do better is not through guilt on yourself. It's through seeing greatness in them and helping them feel that. So believe in them more and pour that into them.
Okay. I'll pour in.
All right. There you go.
All right.
Alex
Thank you,
saying,
man.
all right, good luck. Go do it. Believe.
Believe.
To watch me mentor another entrepreneur, watch the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
If you're going to work on sales techniques alone, you're only going so far. Unless you are just a complete beast that is so highly driven that you can push through your own program.